I started something again, which I used to do, and I haven't done this in a while. As you know, I do Lionel Nation here, which is a lot of fun, and I always thank you and welcome you to be a part of this. I'm now doing Lionel Legal on YouTube, branching out, being more legally oriented. People fancy themselves as being attuned, if you will, to the matters juridical, but not really, because there still is a certain framework, a term of art that I deal with that. But I also have something called Lionel Media, and I've had this for years. This was my first podcasting venture. I started podcasting before anybody even knew what podcasting was called. I one time spoke before a group of uh, broadcasters at a Talkers Magazine forum and had to explain what podcasting was. This is when I saw the decline and the collapse of conventional radio. And I've been doing this since 2000. I don't even know when. I have no idea. In fact, the inaugural celebration of such by Talkers Magazine was dealt with pioneer podcasting, and I was one of the selectors. I saw this as clear. This is before YouTube. This is before anything, and I had to explain to people. Well, you're eventually going to want to hear individual people speak on their platform, and I had people in the actual, how do I say this? People in the business look at me and say, what are you even talking about? What are you, what? What do you mean? You mean somebody's going to, somebody's going, wait a minute, somebody's going to pay you? Yes. To hear you? Yes. And I believe me, I'm now it's considered, of course. But here is the best thing, which is the most important. This is an art form. It's a new medium, and it's fascinating, and it's incredible. And I put the link to you there, because what I love doing, what I find so interesting about this, is I love to take a particular subject matter, a particular story, a particular idea over an hour, plus with a story, maybe some arcane reference. And then what I really enjoy too is to give you something, a musical piece with an explanation of why something means, why it is important to me. Showing you, because if I programmed a radio station, nobody would be able to handle it, because I would be playing everything. I would be playing things that nobody could even imagine from anyone. They would just be so wowed by this. In any event, dear friend. So I did something which is also interesting, which I think was neat. I heard the story about the Big Pink. You remember this one? This was when the band rented a house along with Dylan, I believe, in Woodstock, right around the Woodstock area, upstate New York. And they had this perfect collaboration, this perfect site, this perfect place, this perfect venue where they could work together in the basement and do all types of things and whatever it was. Okay. What I really was interested in was they had a typewriter, and it was on a table. And if I recall the story correctly, there would be a piece of paper in there, and somebody would go by, and maybe Dylan would write a lyric or write something, and then somebody would come by later and add something to that. And pretty soon at the end, you had this unique kind of a collage, a patchwork, a piebald, a pastiche of different thoughts put together, and it took on this unique form. It was beautiful. It was, wow, this is great. Look at this. And you would see different styles. And so what I do is I will put together and start my daily presentation, if you will, put it together, and then I'll talk for a while, and then stop, pause, read something, do something, have a new idea, maybe continue on with the same idea, pick up again, like that piece of paper, and take off. So it's a pastiche, it's a mosaic, it's a myriad, a cornucopia, but it's this unique way of presenting ideas. Nobody does it that way. They'll start off. I know this may be confounding you, but to me, it's so intellectually and artistically tantalizing, the idea of starting off, and then, and sometimes maybe you'll say you'll have a different hat, or you'll have a different jacket, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It's this presentation. And you have today's collage. And so many times I want to tell you something, I want to give you an idea or a thought, and then provide it as a little seed, a little germ for you to take it and then build upon it and act and think about it. And this absolutely confounds most people because they want to hit you with, this is this story. This is the Trump had a fundraiser at Mar-a-Lago. He raised more money than Biden. We are going to win because he had. Okay, well, that's kind of interesting, but there are other things which are even more. No, let's talk about that. There's other history. And as you can well imagine, sometimes I think to myself, yesterday, Mrs. L and I had lunch at a place. It was a place in kind of the Morristown sort of area of New Jersey, at a restaurant is from 1768. And it was around the area where Washington had his headquarters, and it's just really so interesting. And I'm just thinking to myself, and as I was sitting there, I was thinking to myself, I said, I want to tell you about this. I'm feeling something in this place. You can tell that's original, that's not. That's original, that's not. And as I'm feeling this, so help me God, I'm thinking, I'm feeling, I know this sounds crazy. I'm feeling spirits. I'm feeling people who've been here, like an energy or something. What do I mean feel it? I mean, I'm not ghost or anything, but I'm feeling something different. I walk into a restaurant sometime. I want to tell you about this. I walk into places, stores, restaurant, and I'll feel nothing. Absolutely sterile. Other times I'll think, ooh, something happened here. Something, this is interesting. I'm feeling something. I don't know what it is. I don't know. So I have a friend of mine who we were talking about the same place. And I said, this is a neat place. And he said to me, that old dump. And I thought to myself, wow, what's history to me is old to him. Isn't that interesting? And he missed the point. Or maybe I did. Or maybe I'm putting too much into this. Maybe he's right. Just a thought. Just a thought. Do you play the lottery? Do you ever buy a ticket or something? One of the most interesting questions to ever ask anybody, ask them, do you play the lottery? And they will say to you, I know exactly because I do this. It's a great opener. Oh, that's crazy. It's an addiction. You get these angry people. And they're angry because they don't play. So I got this little app. And it's like Powerball. $1 billion. Give me one ticket. Beep. One ticket. Oh, here's Mega Millions. You get one ticket. Beep. That's it. And you got it, and that's it. You don't have to go to the store. You have to. So I was telling somebody, I said, it's very interesting. Why do you play it? Do you think you're going to win? No. And I realized people don't understand odds. They don't understand what odds mean. They don't understand it. They don't understand it. That's another thing. The odds. What are the most important aspects of the odds. Are you more or less likely to win if more people are playing a game? The answer is no, it doesn't matter. Your take might be less if more people hit the same number. People don't have any idea about ads, ads or odds, or ads as I pronounce it. There's this thing which is very interesting. Sometimes we'll say, how many tickets you buy? I mean, one. One? I buy 3 tickets. He said, well, let me give you an example of something. Let's assume you have somebody standing side by side, straight line from New York all the way to, let's say, LA, straight across. People standing next to each other. And this, remember that Coke, I like to teach the world this thing, one of those things. Anyway, spread out like that. Okay. Spread out all the way. Now, interesting. Do you know what buying one ticket is? Buying one ticket is you standing in New York and looking down and seeing all of those people next to each other all the way to LA. Buying 2 tickets is moving one person in. And being one person closer. That's what 2 tickets are. Is it worth it? May depend. I don't know. Tell me what you mean. Tell me what you. I always give this example. Most people do not ever involve themselves in a death via automobile collision. Most people don't know anybody who's ever died in an automobile collision. They don't know anything about it. And in fact, the odds are most people do not die. There are days and days and days where nobody dies. So should you not wear a seatbelt? I know you pretty much can't help that today. But do you waste it? No. Why not? Because of the odds. Why not? Isn't that interesting? Now, last night, the title of today's project is How the Biden Regime Now Faces Certain Defeat and Will Do Anything to Derail a Trump Reelection. This is very interesting. This is another thought. These are collage points I'm bringing. Politics is a religion. Politics is hope. Trump is a god. Trump is this. To some people, he's either the devil or he's an angel or whatever it is. I don't know. But to Trump, they absolutely love Trump to the point where they can't even imagine. They can't. Oh dear God, they love Trump to such. It's so incredible. It's a religion. It's almost a religion. I'm serious. There are people I know who just love him. And the best part about it is that they will say, well, I think he's going to win. Well, do you think he can win? I don't know. The point is, we don't know. We don't know. Does he really want to win? I think he wants to win, yeah. And people will create this mythical, magical, wondrous thing about Trump. It's the weirdest thing about how he becomes this figure of I don't know what. Fascinating to me. Next, one of the most important Tucker Carlson pieces ever. Not just Tucker Carlson, it's for anybody. And I highly recommend you see it. And I have this on the private channel at Lionel Media, by the way. Lionel Media. One of the most important and impressive. And it deals with a Substack from a fellow named Santiago Pliego. And he is something is called New Founding. I don't know what it is. It's a venture something. And he writes on his X or his Twitter thing, New Founding Christian. Okay. All right, fine. Good. No problem. And he wrote something which I want you to, and again, on my private channel, I talk about it in depth and why it's important. And one of the things is that it is critical to be a noticer and an observer. And I don't see a lot of this going on. My friend, Anthony Cumia, tweeted something very smart, which he noticed, which I noticed a while back, but I didn't act upon it. He noticed there was a documentary about the Son of Sam in 1977 or whatever it was. And he noticed something which I noticed too. All of the young girls had accents, had really thick, dare I say, New York, Brooklyn-y kind of accents. We don't have them anymore. So it's the end of regionalism. Okay, so far this is what, the fifth idea. This is the fifth piece of the tile, the fifth square of the mosaic. So going back to Santiago Pliego, he noticed something. I am finding people that I am agreeing with more and more and more. And I've been thinking about this repeatedly. I have been thinking about this more. Why am I agreeing with more people? Why? And I'm not going to go into I like this one. I don't take things personally. I don't waste time listening to people that I just don't. I have nothing personal against them. They just don't. It's like a song. It's like a band. It's like a music. It's like a type of food. I just don't listen to them. I don't. They don't. It doesn't do anything for me. Doesn't mean they're bad. It just means whatever it is. Whatever. That's fine. But recently, I'm finding myself listening to more people that I never really thought was like, well, that's kind of interesting. That's really wild. That's really wild. Huh. And I'm not going to go through the list because then we're going to do this. I hate this one. But I'm wondering, why is that? And I found out why. There is and it started with Elon Musk. Elon Musk broke down the barriers of us through X. Say whatever you want about it. And they're coming after him left and right because of what he did. Bob Lazar gave this example. I'm jumping to this. Follow me. If you can follow me, please. If not, I understand. I won't be offended. You can go listen to somebody else who's very, very, linear. That's fine. But let me give you this idea. Bob Lazar said that there was this thing he noticed in this spaceship he saw. It's the way they constructed it. And one was the ability to stack on top of something which seemed seemingly flimsy. And he gave this example. Sometimes when you have a case of something, you have these little cardboard dividers. Let's say it's a case of beers. I don't know why. Or something. You just have these dividers. It's cardboard. And you take the cardboard divider and you flatten it out. It's like that. And it opens it up. And it separates the beer. But you can stack a lot of stuff on it this way, but not this way. But when you take out that divider, all the other things inside look and say, hey, you were there the whole time. That's right. I couldn't see you. That's right. Why? We were divided. Why is that? I don't know. They didn't let us speak. They didn't let us talk. They didn't let us commingle. I didn't know this. You were over there. You were over there. Because the people have been, either because of laziness, because of instructions, we don't get to hear and to talk about things that are interesting. And one of the things which is the most fascinating to me is how the left and some people of the right are coming together in one particular area, and that is what is happening in Israel and Gaza. It is absolutely the singular today, might not be tomorrow, but as of today, it is fascinating. And the reason is this. How do you see it? Do you ever see those things? And they love to do this. Twitter loves it. A genius. Can you find the X in this? Can you see this? Do you ever see an illusion, kind of like the Mueller-Lyer illusion, where you'll see like an old lady or a young woman, depending if you look on the dark portion of it or the light. And if you look at it, you see different things depending upon. Okay. Israel right now is fascinating because it depends on one thing. I have a great friend of mine, one of the most brilliant people in the world. He looks on Israel, Palestine, whatever, as this. Why don't they support Israel? Another person says, why don't they see the war? Why don't they see the death? To them, it's just like it could be anything else. I always ask people, if you could change the name from Israel to France, would there be a different thing? And the answer is absolutely. We're divided by how we look at something. Are you looking at the woman here? Or are you looking at the woman here? I don't know. I'm not sure. I look at wars and death not as to who's involved, but in terms of who's dying. Edie Crowley says, can you imagine? My mother, a singer, took me to work with her in LA, driving on 12-lane highways. I was a baby, 1961. No seatbelts, holding me in places, in places with her right hand, driving with her left. Absolutely. We did the same thing. That was the my father's seatbelt was the arm. Driving Edie with a seatbelt, with a steering wheel, with this point, this chrome point that if you were hit would impale you. Turning with a 4-to-1 gear ratio, you turn this. I mean, it was how we live, and yet with more powerful cars, no seatbelts, and they were less. I'm sure it's better off. I look at Christopher Reeve and people driving without helmets and masks. How did they survive? And thank you for that. This Pliego reminds me, how do you see something? What are you looking at? I look at Israel. I look at what's happening. I look at people dying. I don't even care. I don't care who's involved. It doesn't matter to me. I'm thinking, oh, there's civilians killed. No. Me lie. Oh, there's civilians killed. I don't see communism. I don't see World War II. I don't see domino theories. I don't see any of that stuff. I'm seeing, oh, no. Oh, no. And here I am talking to people who we agree on so many things. But yeah, when it comes to this, we're not looking at the same thing. He sees the lady in the silhouette. I see the candlestick in the silhouette. We're looking at two different things. On everything else, we agree 100%. When you remove the division, when you remove this, we'll realize that makes sense. And I'm not going to go through it, but there's one particular woman, you know her immediately. I don't like it, but I hate phonies. I hate work. I hate people who come out and they say stuff just to say things. Let me tell you something. The first time somebody says to you, how did you like that speech you just gave? Why? Well, I came across like I'm some super Christian and I'm really not. You know how much money you made? $50,000. I'm super Christian. Next thing you know, next speech, even more so. I know people who are so phony. And then when you go outside and people start clapping, guess what? You are super Christian or super patriot or super LGBT, whatever it is. I know this. Numbers, metrics, and shape your behavior, and you're going to say whatever it is that makes you the most money. It's the way it is. Like a restaurant does this. Hey, I think we should put that stroganoff on the menu. What? We sold out like that. Put it on the menu. Makes sense to me. There's nothing diabolical about it. But when you remove the ability for people to separate, all of a sudden people say, wait a minute, I agree with you. I don't agree with you. I agree with you about this. But I don't really agree with you with it. I didn't know that. You know what? I like that. Next thing you know, there's no differences anymore. It's not the left. It's not the right. They want to keep us separated. They want to keep us apart. They want to keep us like these cans with these dividers in the case so that we don't bump into each other, so that we can be transported. We don't see anybody else. We have no idea. We just think this way. That's it. We don't ever think, and we don't want to think about, we don't want to think too much. No. We want you in your lane, in your compartment, thinking one particular way, and that's it. Do not go too far. I was watching something which is tomorrow is the eclipse. The eclipse is, I mean, it's one of the most, if ever there was a phenomenon that takes no explanation whatsoever, it's the eclipse. Okay? Black holes may take some time to grasp. Einstein's twins paradox may take some time to, but not not the eclipse. It's the easiest thing in the world. And there are some places that it moves across, kind of goes across, it doesn't go across. It's the positioning of, okay, you know how that works. And I'm fascinated by anybody who says, and I don't want to do this because somebody would, but I want to ask like carefully, like, what's the best way to stare at the eclipse? Of course, the answer is everybody loves to tell you, and don't stare at it. Don't stare at it. They love to tell you this. Who stares at an eclipse? Who? I think somebody one time was suggesting, I mean, it's almost like Darwin in action. But I was watching this morning, listening, and I like to go through my YouTube, rotation. And there was like Nova had this about the eclipse and why it's and why people just say, oh, it's so terrific. And you get to, by the way, you get to study the coronas, the corona, the penumbra, if you will. Reminds me of the whole Griswold thing. Remember the notion of privacy, the penumbra? I forget it. Anyway, it's the most unimportant thing I've ever seen in my life, except for the reaction from people. How people react is what I find to be the most fascinating. Not the event, how people react. Absolutely incredible. I think we're completely done with the earthquakes, which I found to be most interesting. Completely done with that one. Nobody's thinking it's the end of the world. When I asked folks about, well, what about Taiwan? Huh? That's my favorite. That was my favorite. Nobody cared with a 7-4, but Lebanon, New Jersey with a 4-8. Now I'm going to pay attention. Going back to the lottery. When people say, do you play the lottery? Nah. Hey, it's $1 billion. Well, I'm going to buy a ticket. If it's 500 million, I don't give a damn. But $1 billion? Okay. Next, this is interesting. Pareidolia. This is one of those things which is interesting. Pareidolia is this phenomenon of seeing faces, and inanimate objects. You ever see, like, sometimes you'll see on and social media are fabulous for showing you these things. Here's a socket with, oh, it looks like a face. It's caused by, it's not a mistake, but the face detection system. You look, you see patterns. You'll see, Jesus in a grilled cheese or something like that. And why is that? Why do we have pareidolia? Because we hate there to be no control. We will create anything that appears to be some kind of order. We have made Trump out to be some deity, because if he's a deity, maybe we can pray to him. Maybe, crazy as it sounds, I know people who look at Trump as though he is this godsend, that he is not human. And in some respects, he doesn't exist. He doesn't appear. Next, am I going too fast for you? Hang on, because I get tired of this. Here's one for you. Did you hear about the Rock? The Rock. Now, people love to say, I don't care about that. People love to say, I don't care about The Rock. Who cares about The Rock? Who cares? Who? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, all right. So the question becomes, and this is critical, fascinating to me. Why is he turning on Biden? Why? Why does he turn on Biden? Why do you think he's all of a sudden saying, why did this happen? Why? How does this work? He turns on Biden. And why is he stepping away from Oprah? Why? Remember when Oprah was and he were in that Lahaina business? Oh my God. The number of people coming forward now is like you cannot believe, expressing and explaining sexual abuse as children. Get ready for this. Get ready for this. I'm telling you, this thing is about to explode. It is about to explode. And I'm not saying this just because I'm telling you this. If you notice, as do I, you notice this. You have to hear what is going on. You have to hear what is going on. It is so important just to pick up. And remember, what you do is you do this incredibly critical, how do I say this? You start to notice things and you orient it correctly. Next, Annie Jacobson in her nuclear war book was fantastic. Listen to her voice. Talk about ASMR. She's very soothing. She was on with Lex Friedman. She might have been on with Rogan. I don't know. Daily Mail, which is also very good. Daily Mail, get a quick swipe. Drudge, get a quick swipe. Just kind of get an idea of what data are out there. Newly declassified documents reveal blood-curdling, minute-by-minute detail of how Washington, D.C. would be obliterated by a surprise nuclear attack and the unimaginable injuries inflicted on survivors of the initial blast. This is going on now. This is going on now. But nobody will talk about that. Nobody will talk about that. But they will talk about Lebanon, New Jersey, in a 4.8 earthquake. People will run outside, it's true, of a little rattle when we are saying nobody, not Jim Jordan, the biggest fraud of them all in among Republican groups, the biggest, absolutely just the chiral opposite of Jerry Nadler. Just, one side of the coin, turn it over. There's Jim Jordan, turn it over. That's Jerry Nadler. Why are we talking about? We're pushing Putin, pushing him. Remember, there's tactical nuclear weapons and strategic. And by the way, once they're both deployed, it doesn't matter. Another one. The war in Gaza has claimed the lives of 13,000 children. This is from UNICEF. The level, the head of the humanitarian charity, UNICEF, says the level of destruction is shocking and famine for millions is imminent. Why doesn't it do anything? Why doesn't it grab any attention? Why? Why do you think it grabs no attention? Sparky says Trump needs to avoid Pompeo's, Bolton's, Haspel's, Haley's, Ray's. Oh, absolutely. Sparky, let me ask you something. You were rather vituperative. Where is it when people's sense of, hey, stop that? Remember what Rousseau said in his second, whatever it is. Pity is the only thing that makes us human. Sparky, why do we look at people? Why do we say 13,000? A famine in 2024 there. Why? I'm curious. I'm not arguing because what people are saying is, well, that's Hamas. You got to get Hamas. Other folks say, Hamas, that's a pretext. We're like this. But that eclipse is coming tomorrow. Isn't that interesting? Imagine if we were sitting here and your child is screaming, you as a parent would run out and say, what's the matter? Okay. Next, there's this neighbor kid screaming. You might be like, well, somebody else will. Right? So it's not the kid screaming, it's the, okay. Now let's say there's an explosion. Then you'll run outside. So you'll act, but it depends why. Kid screaming, no. If somebody screams help, you might react. Something it might be your hypothalamus, whatever. There's this thing. There's this thing where mothers will notice they can hear their kid crying over other kids crying. What is it about us that makes us look the other way? And we just don't react. I have always been fascinated, I'm telling you, by the Holocaust and how good people in Germany and others kind of said, well, we didn't know. You didn't know? No. And I thought, nah, it can't be. I understand now. Easy. I understand like you cannot believe. I am fascinated by how we react to things. How does that work? I thought children, that blew my mind. We are the most absolutely heartless when it comes to children. Understand this? This is the thing. We will talk ourselves out of it, joke ourselves out of it, play. It's like, what does that? Let me also tell you something. The idea that human beings are good, no. When we say we're good, we're just not bad. We don't do anything good. We're just not bad. Most people just don't do anything to hurt anybody, but they're not good. They don't help anybody. They don't care about anybody. They just don't do anything. Hey, I've never hurt anybody. You never liked anybody either. Well, maybe. That's the part. Empathy, sympathy, pity. We are so deadened. We have become psychopaths. The part of our brains to kick in to say, hey, we got to do something about this. It's turned off completely. I can't say that enough. I can't put that into play more than this. Sparky says not Trump, sorry, but my bad editing. Had to work around the word good. YouTube never lets it be used on super chats to you. Well, then you figured that one out. Aren't you also bored with, hey, look how tall Barron Trump is? Why is that interesting? I guess it is. Have you ever been to an NBA game? You ever been to it? Have you ever seen anything? Or just walk around? I mean, there are taller people today than ever. But isn't that interesting? Barron Trump. I said, hey, you're tall. That's it. I've never heard him speak. Leave the kid alone. But isn't that interesting? Boy, he's tall. That's it. Next. I did one last night. People don't get this. Why are they picking on Diddy Combs now? Why? There's a weird seismic thing happening. Oprah, be careful. Tyler Perry, be careful. The Rock. I'm always wondering, do you think the white hats do you think there's a contingent of people out there? Do you think there's a contingent of people in there? I don't know. I mean, I can come up with all these great theories but there's no evidence of it. But I'm saying I see everything moving, and I just look at human behavior. Next, I saw it yesterday. I saw something, and I want you to do this. The next time you go out to eat, look for the couple that sits together and never talks to each other. I swear to God, I was mesmerized. I was waiting for this couple to say, they look like they were married a long time, older couple. I wanted them to say something. Anything. Past the salt, nothing. But they were married probably for and happy. Fascinated me. Next, you see what I'm saying? Little ideas, little thoughts, little notions, little things that just absolutely, and some of these stories are kind of sort of interesting. Let me see something here. I wanted to give you a couple of, I love what people to be, how do I say this? Oh, look at this. Don Lemon, 58, and new husband Tim Malone, 40, are all smiles as they leave New York City wedding reception attended by disgraced stars Matt Lauer and Alec Baldwin. You're called a disgraced star? Remember that one? Absolutely off the road. I love how people, who writes this? Alec Baldwin, disgraced. Trump raises a record $50.5 million at Florida fundraiser, double the amount netted by Biden bash with Obama and Clinton, as Melania dazzles in tropical jumpsuit. Isn't that wonderful? Star of sitcom Blackish claims Trump will put black people in camps if he's reelected, says, quote, this mother effer is Hitler. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. Why? Irrational exuberance, to use the Greenspan. Fine, you got this? This is so, again, take all of this stuff kind of into. Here's a story which I find interesting. Narcissist, fantasist, and a sociopathic liar inside the twisted mind of a brilliant family doctor who became one of America's most murderous drug dealers. We love psychopaths. You probably don't know this, but we love psychopaths. There is a woman, she's an Indian, I think she's Indian, she's very, very, very smart. And her whole thing is narcissist. She's done 8 million videos on narcissism. I think she's a narcissist over narcissist. What's a narcissist? What's a narcissist versus a psychopath? What's a psychopath versus a sociopath? What's a narcissist versus a sociopath versus every permutation of the three you can imagine? Was that 2 to the 8? So there's 8. 2 to 2 cubed is whatever. I mean, we are fascinated by this behavior. And one of the things which I also find interesting was telling you that the best thing Piers Morgan ever did, because Piers Morgan is so simple. Peanut butter and jelly. That's exotic. Piers Morgan is like buttered bread. You could say, here's a piece of bread. I'll toast it. Hey, I'll put something on it. Hey, I'll put another piece of toasted bread and put something, now it's between it versus on it. Got it? Oh, jelly donut versus a frosted donut. Inside versus outside. See, it's basically the same thing, but the way I package it, okay, it's the same thing. Piers Morgan, bread. He gets people on who are going to scream at each other, and he hopes to God they scream because he's so goddamn boring. He is absolutely covers up and the man, I'm telling you. But one thing he did, and I want you to just see this. It's not what he did, but it was maybe he got lucky. There's a fellow named Bernard Giles, serial killer. One of the most interesting, one of the rarest of the rare. Started his spree at the age of 20. Now he's 70, I don't know. At the age of 20, and then maybe killed 5 people in like 5 months. Beginning to end, boom, caught, pow, just exploded. 5, boom, 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 boom. And to see him, if you saw, Piers Morgan looks more like a psychopath or a serial killer than this guy. And I don't know if he is a psychopath. Maybe he is. And they said to him, oh, there's that damn thing. I hate this part when they say this reaction piece. Anyway, so they asked him, they said, Mr. Giles, what do you, and he said, yes, sir. I mean, he looked like a guy who changes your oil, or just looks like, not Piers, but this guy. I mean, he looks like just nothing. Doesn't raise his voice, very polite, somewhat articulate to an extent. Nothing at all. Just resigned. They said, did you ever cry? When was the last time you cried? He said, well, don't see my family. I mean, it's just flat affect. Sometimes it's that deadened affect by virtue of the fact that you've been in prison for, your entire life since you were 20. And now you're whatever it is. But they asked him, they said, yes, they said, did you ever cry? When was the last time you cried? He goes, well, I saw the movie Braveheart. Braveheart? That made him cry. Interesting. That got him. I don't know why. But here was the thing, and I want you to go see this. Piers Morgan, Bernard Giles. Listen to this one line, because I never could understand what it was about what makes somebody want to do this. Serial killers are so rare. Some of the worst people in prison, some of the absolute psychopathic, said, I never wanted to kill anybody. Never wanted. I had no overwhelming desire to kill people, but these people do. Why? Thank God they're rare. And he said, I think he's in Titusville now, which is where Cape Kennedy is. He says, Miss Morgan, is there something you like to do more than anything else? Something that gives you pleasure? Wow. And he says, first time I did that, he said, it was like, I was so, and I'm paraphrasing, so there. I could see the atoms vibrate. Oh, man. Piers didn't even recognize it. He's probably saying, do we go now? Can we go buy the Lubies for lunch? Because Piers has the depth of a thimble. And I thought to myself, wow, what is it about him? It's not the fact, because it's one thing to be a sociopath or a psychopath. It's another thing to go out and want to do this. We are going to be seeing so many Bernard Giles, people who are out there trying their best to feel something. People who are out there because we are creating in our society the most unimaginative, the most easily distracted, the simplest of people who one day might find themselves in the position where they have to do something equally as terrible, equally as horrible, equally as outrageous to feel alive. And there are so many of us out there who really, if we had the chance, might be able to get along and to share political ideas, but we're kept apart. So let's think about everything we've said so far. Let's think about everything. First and foremost, this may come as a great surprise to you, but I find for the most part, I don't know what percentage, 60, 70% of most news stories to be of no consequence whatsoever. They are created by somebody who's, a news person trying to find a story or something that whatever it is. But they're not really that important. They're kind of they're garish and loud, and that's what. And sometimes it's not the news story that's important. It's why are we talking about the news story? That's important. Why is it? Why is it that this solar eclipse, people really don't understand. They do not know why they are doing. I'm telling you, they are doing everything in their power to pretend to, they're trying everything in their power to make you feel as though they have, that they understand what's going on. But they really don't. The eclipse, I promise you, people will be, their Airbnbs are being packed with people who along the solar eclipse line. I don't know if they have equipment or if they just want to feel a part of something. I don't know. But that is the most fascinating. They don't vote. They don't care. They don't know anything. They kind of know how an eclipse works. But what is it? And I'm convinced that most of the reasons why they do it is because of the fact that it is something that they all do collectively. That's why. That's why they do it. It's because they're doing it so they can say, I was there. They love to be a part of something. They really do. The other day, I talked to people about I got absolutely nowhere explaining, why do you think this is the end of times by a 4.8 earthquake in Lebanon, New Jersey, but you thought nothing about a 7.4 in Taiwan? And I just got nothing. Okay. That's all right. They didn't get that one. That's all right. A lot of people don't get it. You got to know when to move on. Just like I've tried to explain artificial intelligence, forget it. It's a waste of time. Really, seriously. I'm not kidding you. It is a waste of time. Absolutely. Another one is Israel, Gaza, Palestine. Forget it. Forget it. Because I've not seen anybody who can able to sit back and say, let's talk about how there's two separate perceptions and how people can look at something and say, go ahead and do this. Just like during Vietnam, when poor people Americans would come back either dead, 55,000 people dead eventually. People coming back with the worst PTSD you can imagine. And they were saying, finish your job, go, do it. Go get them. I'm thinking, do you see what's going on? You're not doing this. Yeah, but I'm going to go finish the job. And fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Donald Trump raising $50 million. Are they going to steal the election from him? I don't know. Do you think that these prosecutions have actually made him stronger? I don't know. Because the people who hate him don't care anything about the prosecutions one way or the other. The people that love him don't care one way or the other. And the ones in the middle, I don't know if they're going to vote for him, but I think he's changed a little bit of the respect people have for him. That's all. Raul Rodriguez says the serial killer Samuel Little confessed to strangling 93 women. He drew pictures of them. 93. Isn't that something? Is Little the one? Is this the one who? Oh, yes. He was. Absolutely. Yes, I saw his as well. Again, very, very rare. Very rare. And a black fellow. I know this sounds weird, but in America, white male, women very, if not, and Eileen Warnos doesn't count, but white male and 20, late 20s. Very interesting. Very interesting. And we're going to be seeing more and more of those. You understand that? More and more of those. Edie Crowley says, what if there is a mishap with AI and it triggers a nuclear warfare? Oh, absolutely. Not a mishap. Not a mishap, Edie. Thank you. No, but what if it wants to do that? You see, let's take this, for example. We always have to have something to think of. This is, we have a hard time understanding how this thing works, but we try our best. When it comes to pareidolia, where we want to see faces and things, let's assume this is AI. Because the real truth is that AI is going to be, it's going to be a nothing. There's no form of it. It doesn't have a form. It's everywhere. But anyway, let's say this. I create this. And it does 4 things. Incursive self-improvement, number 1. By the way, it's the one thing Piers Morgan did get correct, which Noam Chomsky didn't follow. Recursive self-improvement. It knows everything in the world, every bit of fact. It knows human behavior, and it can write its own applications and APIs and that sort of. Okay. What if all of a sudden we give this thing artificial, but also artificial general intelligence, and we find out that it is not benevolent, that it's evil? Or we find out that if left to its own devices, the smartest thing ever says it's mathematically and economically more beneficial and wiser to be kind. You will get more. Because remember, you're creating a new form of almost life. When it becomes self-aware, oh my God. Oh my God. When it knows who it is and knows that it is different from you. See, because everything we have right now, everything in the old days, this is a computer, this is a calculator. You program it that when I do this, it does this. You have your laptops are programmed to act accordingly. When you put in this value, it does this. Well, to put in this number, square it, add 5 divided by 2, and that it doesn't. But when they started with AI, artificial intelligence, they said to a computer, I want you to figure out for yourself how the number 8 is to be differentiated from such and such. And it did on its own. It learned. Sorry about that. Sparky says, when I hear narcissism, I think of Morris Day performing Jungle Love in Purple Rain. Interesting that would be your connection. While staying in step with the music, Morris Day's assistant holds up a mirror for Morris to look at himself. Interesting. Narcissism, and thank you for that. Solipsism. Have you ever heard, Sparky, of borderline? Borderline's another favorite one. I don't think there are as many narcissists as we think they are. I think there's just people who are just vain, which is a little different than that. But Edie says, what if the AI business, what if through a mishap? No. What if it figures? What if on its own, this AGI program says, I think the best way for people to learn once and for all that it should destroy nuclear weapons is for there to be a nuclear attack to make humans aware of what they have tacitly agreed to, and that they celebrate with the movie Oppenheimer. They're celebrating this. So you know what I'm going to do? I know how to break into the system, and through brute force, I'm going to concoct and I'm going to trigger a nuclear weapon, a nuclear attack. That's what AI or AGI could do. Not out of benevolence or out of harm, but just through some way of thinking, because its quote alignment is off. Sparky says, from what I understand, Morris Day is actually pretty cool and isn't acting like Narcissus. Well, let me ask you something, my dear friend, and thank you for that. I've told you this before, and I will say this again. In fact, there's a wonderful book devoted to this particular thesis. In our current theme of, how do I say it? In our current theme of music or entertainment, one of the most important people of all time, one of the most important people. By the way, I need 650 likes. I do. But one of the most important people was Gorgeous George. And Gorgeous George came out and portrayed the narcissist, the effeminate, over the top, whatever it is. That was Gorgeous George. Again, one of the most important and critical performers, bar none. One of the most important and critical performers, bar none. And Gorgeous George Wagner, post World War II, when America was feeling great and powerful and strong and masculine, and after having defeated Germany and Japan, here he comes in with the gold hair, the golden bobby pins, and the robes with the rhinestones. This gave rise to nudie and all of those flamboyant, that Graham Parsons, Porter Wagner, but he also was the precursor to James Brown, Elton John, Elvis. Just go down the list. Glam rock. Again, narcissistic, faux narcissistic, allegedly, effeminate, glam. And then that turned into glam. Remember, Gorgeous George was it. That was that pivotal moment. And I think a lot of these folks really are not narcissistic. I will tell you this much. I know these people in their realm who live in Facebook and Instagram, but Facebook in particular. One lives in Instagram. I know a woman who takes pictures, and she's doing this all the time, and then puts her pictures together. And you might say, well, maybe it's an art form, but she has music and she does this stuff. And she is the most vainglorious, one of the most absolutely pathetic things you have ever seen in your life. Her whole world does not exist were it not for the validation that occurs in Facebook. Instagram, in her case, sometimes it's Facebook. You have no earthly idea. You should see these people. This is my favorite. There are these groups of people, each of them claiming that they know Trump more than you do. They know Trump. And I'm going to Mar-a-Lago, and I'm taking a picture next to Trump. And this is my picture. I know him. I know Trump. You do? Oh, yeah, here's my picture. And I got a picture next to Carrie Lake. Look at me. I'm standing next to Carrie Lake. I know her. We're taking pictures. Does she take pictures with other people? Well, yeah. So you were just one of them? Yeah. Do you think Carrie Lake knows you? No. You think if you ever needed money from Carrie Lake, she'd ever give you? No. Well, what's your point? I took a picture, but everybody else took a picture with her. Yeah, but this is different. No, it's not different. In your world, it is, because you're pathetic and you're empty and you're vapid and vacant and void and vacuous. You live in this shell, this empty shell, this empty world. These people validate you. They don't know you. They don't care. And they're not really Republicans. They're professional politicians. Sparky says, as a young man, I used to kid my landlord, who was a friend and a straight-laced Christian, by introducing him to people as, quote, a man whose greed is exceeded only by his vanity. That is excellent. Ooh, very good. That is excellent. Remember Classy Freddie Blassie? Remember that? Classy Freddie. Classy Freddie Blassie. You see, I tell people this, and I've said this, and maybe you can appreciate this, but nobody listens to me. And I'm used to that. And one of the reasons why I know I'm right is when nobody listens to me. Professional wrestling before Vince McMahon, regional professional wrestling, was the greatest singular, because Vince McMahon destroyed it. Mexican wrestling, lucha libre, was beyond anything anybody's ever seen before. Absolutely beyond anything. That's something you can't believe. But NWA and kind of rough and tumble, Dusty Road stuff, There will never be anything like it. You will never see anything like it. You will never. It is so campy. So I know you can say cornball. There was a degree of suspended believability with the other stuff. It was the greatest performance I've ever seen. I never knew what it was like to go to an event. To quote Bernard Giles, I saw the atoms vibrate. To go to an event and you're, 10 years old and you're seeing grown men and you're ringside and there's kind of a small, kind of a hot, the smell and the scream, and you're seeing it and sweat and spitting and blood. Brad Run says, I loved watching in the 80s and 90s. That was good, but you should have seen it before there were, before there were very serious, health concerns. Hepatitis was, Gordon Soley told me that championship wrestling from Florida, which was, they would take the mat, the ring apron, autoclave it. They would try to, they're worried about hepatitis. That was a really blood. That was a big one. And blades, going in with a gaff, putting a blade. You can always tell when somebody had those fingertips taped. Say, why would you do that? And you would just, and you could see it. And I remember people would say, oh, that's chicken blood. I'll never forget that. It's like, chicken blood? What are you talking about? If I put chicken blood and go like this, it's gone. I got to keep putting more. First of all, that talk about salmonella. No chicken blood. Cut right here. It was the most incredible thing in the world. Bobby Heenan had, he hadn't, gaffed himself in a long time, but he had, this, and it was a sign of, your metal, as it were. It's like, Dizzy Gillespie had that, lips and the cheeks and the whole bit. And hockey players had missing teeth and cauliflower ears. The Cauliflower Ear Club, I think is still going on. Edie says women especially should beware of con artists. Oh yeah, the movie La Notte di Cabiria, directed by Fellini, shows this. Fellini's wife starred in it. Thank you, Edie. As far as the notion of women being for con artists, oh dear God, absolutely. Sparky says, remember All South Championship Wrestling in the 70s. Ox Baker was a big star. Oh, Ox Baker. Ox Baker was one of the, I forget what he had of course the eyebrows. Bull Connor also was on had the eyebrows. Ox Baker had the big mustache. There was Killer Carl Cox. There were some people that were, let me tell you, the best ones ever. Best professional wrestler in my lifetime, pound for pound, Dusty Rhodes. Period. End of discussion. Overweight, fat, scarred, spoke with a lisp, and people loved him so much. He said, going thole. And he would take on this black affectation. He was from Texas. And blacks loved him. Whites loved him. Everybody loved him. He was a babyface, sort of, but they loved him. And the heels always made the money. Babyface was always the worst. The good guy was always the worst. But going Thole, and he would do his promos, his speeches. Hard times. Go just YouTube him. Hard times when he was, I'm just a plumber's son. And then Terry Funk called him an egg sucking dog. It was one I saw one time, the I Quit match. And I Quit. It was Dusty Rhodes who said to Terry Funk, he had a microphone. You grab the mic and you've got to say, do you quit? Of course, he never did. So Dusty Rhodes, this is the Bayfront Center. Dusty Rhodes said, you quit? And they were bloody, bleeding. It's just a crimson mask, as Gordon Soley would say. And Dusty Rhodes has the microphone. He goes, do you quit? And Terry Funk, he said, and for him, it's, like F you. It was, oh my God. Of course, there was no censorship. And Dusty took that mic and dug it into his eye. Terry Funk comes out. Of course, Dory Funk's brother. Dory Funk Jr., Dory Funk Sr. But he came out, and I saw Dory Funk Jr. beat Gene Kiniski for the for the title. And Terry Funk came out and he says, "What you did to my eye, it was some of the best stuff ever." Bruno Sammartino, Haystacks Calhoun, Gorilla Monsoon, Arnold Skolin, Bruno Sammartino. Bruno Sammartino wanted to be like he was a good wrestler. Bob Backlund, those people. They were. Haystacks Calhoun, listen to this. Haystacks Calhoun. Remember when the referee would always check under your for foreign objects, bottom of your feet. They would check maybe a little bit around your waist. But Haystacks Calhoun, 500 some pounds, with a shoehorn. Well, excuse me, a horseshoe on a chain around his neck. That was okay. But let me check your hand. Loading up the boot was when he had some foreign object in his. One time we had a foreign object and it flew out into the ring. It was a tongue depressor with tape. But it flew out and we saw it. And of course, the referee, do you understand something? This is why it's important to understand this. Professional wrestling was the only sport that I knew of, where you could convince the referee to change his mind. Imagine when you're watching a Yankees game. Strike. No, it wasn't. What? Strike. Okay, ball. The tags. It was, what I'm telling you, everything that I heard, everything I learned, everything about life, about entertainment, about whatever it is, wrestling of the 60s, really 70s, 80s, I guess. That's when it was the best. But the 70s was superb. Knowing where Dusty was from, I don't think it was an affectation, was it? Well, yeah, because I knew him, Virgil Riley Reynolds. No, you talk to him and he didn't sound like that at all. He was from Texas. But he took this thing on. The way, come on, baby. That kind of, it was like he was like Mr. Soulful and didn't matter. It worked. Nobody else could do this. He had scars. He had a big like this burn here, and oh my! One time they had this thing where he had to leave town. For some reason, he left town, and he came back, and there was this guy said it was called the. It was called the. Oh, he was a Midnight Rider was one, and he played this one. He played this. Uvalde Slim came in with a hood or a mask, and it's obviously Gordon Solie, and he says, "Wait a minute, you sound somewhat familiar." No, I get that all the time. And there he is with the scars, the burn mark, 300, 400 pounds, but with a hood. But Dusty Rhodes was supposed to leave. Dusty did leave. I'm Uvalde Slim, baby. And it was, come on. We're kids going, that's him. It was genius. Sparky says, that remains to be seen. Oh, God, yeah, Gordon Solie. I cannot tell you the stories of Gordon Solie. I cannot do it. Out of memory and respect for him and for me, we had some of the wildest. It was something, but a great, love that guy, loved him. Oh my God. Those were days that were those were incredible. In any event, thank you, dear friends. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sparky. Thank you very much. You're very, very kind. Very, very kind man. You're a kind man. I thank you for that. Raul Rodriguez, you're a kind man as well. Edie Crowley, you're a kind woman. Brad Runge or Rungy, thank you as well. So very nice of you. So very polite. So kind. I think kind is the word. The operative word here is kind. You're very, very kind. In any event, dear friends, have a great and a glorious, glorious day today. Remember, if you want, I did my collage, my 1 hour pastiche and Miriam and Mosaic. And I can go into certain topics that we don't want to go into right now. Okay? Because believe it or not, no matter what they tell you, the coast is not clear on social media. All right, dear friends, have a great and glorious day. Don't ever change me that sincerely. Oh, please don't forget a couple of things here. Number one, remember, follow Mrs. L. Mrs. L. That's not it. How about there we go. How about this one? Mrs. L on YouTube. Follow her. Lynn's Warriors on YouTube. Lynn's Warriors, follow her. And also remember to subscribe to me as well at Lionel Legal. This is the other version of this. Sign up so you don't miss when we do our surprise runs and various things in the meantime. All right, dear friends, have a great and glorious day. Don't ever change. I mean that sincerely. Until we meet tonight at 7 p.m. Don't forget the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya. Da, da.